Hello and welcome to the Shell Show. I'm your host, Jacob Shell. Today we're going to discuss faith, family, and finance in that order. You will not want to miss a minute of this one, so stay tuned. Let's get to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Episode 7 with my good friend Eric Boyd.
Happy to be here.
I have to adjust this because that's why. Thank you for coming. It's a late night. I know that. Really appreciate that. It helps not having tiny children, doesn't it?
It does.
I have a tiny children, and I put them to bed before I came. I have a tiny children because you need a singular and a plural. It helps. Okay. So, Mr. Boyd, I want to do an introduction, but I don't know a lot about the business side of you.
Yeah.
All I know is that you are a massive help to the church with production and obviously other things as well that really help. And I've known you for a very long time. So I don't know much about you, though, because most of the time I've known you was not as an adult.
Yeah.
So I hate to ask you to do your own introduction, but I might have to.
Okay. Well, you just tell me what you want to know.
Tell me who you are.
Okay.
Tell me how you remember us meeting, because I don't really remember a meeting point as much as I just have always felt like we've been kind of crossing paths,
right,
per se. And maybe a little bit about, your family and what you do.
Sure.
Whatever you're comfortable sharing.
So my earliest memories of the Shell family would be right around the year 2000. So New Year's Eve 2000, I kind of drew a line in the sand and decided I've been living my life this way, and I know I need to make a change.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen unless I'm intentional about it. So on New Year's Eve 2000, I basically kind of walked away from a lifestyle of partying and, doing things that were not real productive for me
that makes
or
sense,
for what God's plans for my life and so forth. And so had been working towards that for a while, but, I felt like I really needed to do that. And so that was during a time when your dad was the worship leader at the church that we both have gone to for a long time,
yeah,
and so forth. So, your dad was a big part of what God was doing in my life because he was the worship leader
right,
of like some incredible times of worship, some incredible altar times where God really changed me. And so yeah, you and Wesley were pretty young. I mean, you were toddlers.
Yeah.
Running around back in those days. So how old were you in the year 2000?
4.
So you were 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 4
I don't
years
think
old.
your sisters had come into the
No,
world
so
by that time.
Mia was 2001. No, she might have been 99 actually.
Yeah.
She was 98 or 99, I believe. Right. And then Annie was 2007.
Yeah, she was much
2006,
later.
2007.
Yeah. So yeah, those are my early memories of you. And then watched you grow up, but wasn't real, we never really interacted.
Right.
And then when my son started going to the same school that you went to, I think when he got old enough to want to go to a football game, you were playing on the football team.
Okay.
So then I saw Jacob out there just crushing it both ways, running back, and you're playing defense. I don't remember what you played on defense, but you were definitely one of the better players on the field. So it was fun. It was fun to see that.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, maybe not my freshman year. Freshman year, we had some elite athletes for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember which year it was. I think it was closer to your senior year.
It was probably junior or senior year. We were really hurting for people.
Yeah.
So I actually had 2 former teammates in here earlier, Jennings and Trey, who you would have watched as well. And I'm sure you know the Birchfield family.
I do. I know Jennings.
They're good people.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were good times, Friday nights. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you have talk to me a little bit about the family life.
Yeah, so I have 2 boys. My oldest just turned 18, Evan, and my younger son is 11. His name's Liam.
Okay.
So they're a little bit further apart.
Yeah.
We've got a great story there. Probably for another day. I mean,
Okay.
we get into that, but
Yeah.
we have it ties into kind of, if I don't know what we're going to get into exactly tonight,
Yeah.
but he was adopted. We weren't able to have Evan. We had no problem.
Right.
We tried for number 2 for a long time unsuccessfully,
Mm.
and really felt like even earlier before that, we felt like adoption was something that we wanted to do at some point in our
Right.
lives. But you know, we got to the point where we really felt that's where God was leading us, and so we started down that path. And anyway, we have a really cool story, very unique relationship with Liam's birth parents, both his
Okay.
birth mom and birth dad. The best way I can explain it to you, they're like a little brother and a little sister to me. They weren't together. They're not together. They've got their own separate lives, but they're both now married.
Okay.
And so Charlie, his birth father, is a guitar player in Nashville. He travels all
Wow.
over the world with an artist, and doing really well. And then Renee, his birth mother, lives in Asheville. She's a very successful web designer, and she's got
Cool.
a great business going, very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And so she married this cool guy named Nick, and so Nick is now my business partner.
Okay.
So he is helping me as of August. I started a new business in January
Yeah.
with the intent of bringing Nick into it to
That's
help
cool.
me. So it's a real God plan.
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to see it develop. So I'm
That's cool.
super excited. So
That's really cool.
so yeah, so that's a little about our family and my wife Jennifer. We are going to be married 20 years in 2 days, so we're celebrating our 20-year
That's so exciting.
anniversary.
So I'm assuming that was probably part of the life turnaround too. Did you guys know each other prior to that?
No,
Okay.
nope.
So that came post that as well.
Yeah. I got to a point in my life where I really just I didn't want anything else but then just to pursue what God's plan was for my life.
That's awesome.
No distractions or anything.
Right.
And so I had worked in the same business my whole life, and
Yeah.
so I've done one thing my whole life. Right, I started. I mean, roundabout in the same industry as a young kid, but actually 16 years old. I'm in the cabinet business, kitchen cabinets. So I had my first cabinet job when I was 16.
Wow.
But I was exposed to more construction and stuff at a much earlier age. I was working anybody that would let me.
Yeah.
I would work.
Wow.
Right, and so I helped a guy build a house. I think I was 11 or 12. I spent the summer building a house with a guy, and then worked in construction. I think it was 12. And so the next year, when I was 13, I grew up in New York. You can get working papers. You can actually work at
Wow.
13.
Is that still a thing? Or
I
is that
think
a thing?
so. I mean,
like
I
a
don't
thing
know.
of the past.
But I actually got to work for a contractor on the books, I think, when I was 13.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
And-
Is
and
it like an apprenticeship? Like it can go hand in hand with
I think it's
studies?
more just like trying to avoid like child labor,
Oh.
like not exploiting kids.
This is allowed?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I got you.
It was like you had to get working papers, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't considered an apprenticeship
Okay.
at that point. Although that was certainly a pathway,
Yeah.
especially in different parts of the country. More so, like where I grew up in New York, there's unions. And
Okay.
there are like levels of like you could be a master plumber or a master carpenter. I don't really see that down here. I mean, I've been
Right.
living in North Carolina since we moved here as a family when I was 14, and that would have been 89, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know. Growing up there, you saw people like who are like second, third generation tradesmen,
Right.
and they go through certification and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit. I think it's just. I think things are just are just done a little bit differently.
Yeah, because down here it's like a master plumber is the guy who shows up in his RV and he also lives in it, but
Yeah.
he fixes everything,
Well, I mean,
and they do a great job.
I guess
It's
to be a
just
master, I mean, you just have to kind of do one thing for a long time
it's
and
true.
become a master. So,
Yeah,
but there is some certification that's
right.
in different states.
Well, I guess the unions create those programs.
I think so. I don't know enough to answer that
Okay.
intelligently, but
Yeah, I
um,
know they're very prominent up north.
yeah,
The unions
absolutely.
are, and I don't know anything about them for the most part, so I won't pretend like I do either.
Yeah, it's different here. Different. It's just
Yeah,
things work
not
differently
really
here,
required.
especially in the construction
Yeah.
business.
So that's cool. So talk a little bit about the cabinet industry. What's that like? Is it more sales than anything? I mean, what is that world?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I started out basically, with a job that was delivering cabinets, unloading trucks, delivering cabinets, sweeping the floors,
Mm,
doing whatever I could
yeah.
for $5 an hour or whatever I was making back then. Um,
Not breaking child
yeah,
labor
I
laws.
think minimum wage was like 450,
Okay.
and when I
In New
started,
York.
no, here.
Oh. Oh,
No,
oh,
here.
oh, oh. That's
No.
right. You said
That's
you moved
when I
here
was
at
16,
14,
my first
16.
cabinet job,
Okay.
I made $5 an hour.
Yeah.
So it was a little over minimum wage, so it was pretty good.
Nice. Living right.
But I got to do, I got to work with tools and do things. So the guy that I worked for, he would, he kept some inventory. He stocked some kitchen cabinets. So we would unload inventory trucks, 53-foot trailers would come in. We'd
Mm.
unload them, kind of stage them in lanes and stuff like that, and then he would sell jobs and we would load up the job for the next
Load it right
day.
back up.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was starting out, but then he'd let me help go install with him and figured out that I already knew how to use tools, so he was pretty quick to turn me loose.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I went to work for a guy that had just bought out his business partner, had just gone through a divorce. So I was kind of like his only employee and kind of his best friend,
Gotcha.
even though he's much older than me. We had a pretty cool relationship. So,
Yeah.
I've been somebody that I always love to work. Like,
Right.
I love it. I enjoy it. And it's like, if you will let me work, I'll do it. Like,
Okay.
you know, some kids you have to like try to convince them to work. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, if you'll let me work, I'll do it. Like, and if you pay me, that's even better. So,
I'll do it for free, but you can pay me if you want.
yeah, I grew up hustling the neighborhood, right?
Right.
Like, if somebody would let me mow their lawn, I'd mow their lawn. If they needed some boxes moved, I'd love doing that. And if they paid me, cool. But
Yeah.
if not, I was just happy to do it.
That's cool.
And I still enjoy, like, I find more enjoyment in like menial tasks and
Changing batteries in the smoke detectors.
yeah, well, not so much that, but like kind of whatever it is, sweeping a floor
Yeah.
or cleaning up something or doing digging a ditch or
Right.
something. Like I still enjoy doing those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, the thing
I'm
with
glad I don't
manual
have to do it
labor.
for a living.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the older I get, some of that stuff, may be fun for a little while, but
Not as
I
much
wouldn't
fun
want to do
anymore.
it, every
Yeah.
day.
The nice thing about manual labor is it's a finite start and finish.
Yeah.
A lot of people like that,
Yeah.
especially men. We like to accomplish tasks, not necessarily just to check the box, but also just to check the box. And being able to see progress helps you feel more accomplished.
Yeah.
So I think of when I used to work for Wells Fargo, we had certain tasks that were done every quarter. And so you would finish it and there was the feeling that you accomplished it and then you do the same thing the next quarter. And that kind of repetition just wasn't fun. It's a lot more fun. I like working with my hands. I don't do it a ton.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't do a lot of things around the house either. So, it is very satisfying though to say, you know what, I'm going to do this project and you see it to the finish line and then you have a finished product,
Right.
which is a little different than the digital world we live in where it's like you click a few buttons, the next day you have to do the same thing. But there is something really satisfying about that.
Yeah, I think it is. You know, the more the more I understand who God is, He's a creator,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're made in His image.
Right.
So we're made to create,
Yes.
and it may not be with your hands, or it may not be. It's not just men; it's men and women. It's
Yeah.
everybody
Right.
has this feeling of satisfaction when they create something,
Mm-hmm.
because it's your
It's your
DNA.
design, yeah.
Yeah, it's your design.
Right.
And so that's the thing that I love doing. That's why I
Right.
say, like, it doesn't have to be anything that anybody else sees, or I just enjoy doing things because, like, I get this sense of God is pleased. God is like, there's a sense of joy, I guess, that not even that God is pleased. I mean, it's not about pleasing God. It's about like, feeling His presence and
Right.
and understanding like His goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all around, and it's in the work that we do,
Right.
right? And so, our work is really important
Yeah.
to God, and it's really important to the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
It's we have an opportunity to do the best with what we have right now,
Right.
but it's got eternal significance as well.
Yeah.
And so, I've been learning that,
Every day.
every day, but more so just in the last couple of years, it's really starting to, um, you know, bring on a new meaning to me, and,
Yeah.
and like more of an understanding of that. So
Mm-hmm. The way David says it, so we had David Benham on earlier, and the way that he says your work is your worship.
yeah,
So it's important to do it well,
yeah,
and also to enjoy it, because while it is a task and sometimes it is stressful, we were designed to work.
yeah,
Um, and in reality, there are a lot of people, him, and I'm sure to an extent, or at least sometime soon, you as well. You could financially retire if you wanted to, and a business would pay your income or whatever, but retirement's not in the cards because that's not what we're called to,
no, I
in the
think,
sense of just sitting and not doing anything.
yeah,
So I think he said something really cool. He said, you're called to retire, which is change the tires, and if it's time to do something else, it is, but you're still
yeah.
called to work.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, I used to think like that's the end goal, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we're taught and how
Yeah.
we're programmed is that like,
Brainwashed for it.
let's hurry up and make a bunch of money so we can retire. And do what?
Waste
Like,
it.
if I sit on a beach for more than a day, I am bored out of my skull. Like, there,
Yeah.
I just, I enjoy
You gotta play
being,
putt putt.
yeah, okay. Well, I heard, I listened to this guy named Doug Addison. He's got like a kind of a prophetic ministry, and he does a kind of a little podcast. I don't know if it's daily or weekly or whatever, but I don't know how I found him, but I enjoy listening to him. And he says something about, I'll probably get it a little bit wrong, but just talking about like, I don't know if it's prosperity, like, or
Prosperity gospel.
well, no, nothing like that. But he was saying like, kind of, it's not his definition of prosperity or success is having the time and money and health to do what God calls you to do
Yeah.
when He calls you to do it. And I
Right.
love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Like, I do have aspirations of getting to a point where I don't have to work every day
Yeah.
at a job,
Right.
because I want the freedom to be able to do things that I feel like God is calling me to do.
Right.
But I want to be able to have the resources and the time and the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that's my
Yeah.
picture of retirement,
Right.
is like getting to that point. Right?
Exactly.
And so I think, the less, the less you need in life,
Mm-hmm.
the quicker you can get there.
Absolutely.
Right. And so it's not like, I'm not a minimalist. I don't want to like, I think that's annoying. Like, but stuff just doesn't mean,
There's extremes on all sides.
stuff doesn't mean that much to me.
Right.
Like, I'm totally content with,
Yeah.
with where I'm at in life, with, with a roof over my head and, money for groceries and things like that.
Yeah.
And not, not having any
Over
like,
consuming.
yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy
It's something I
supporting.
always struggle with is I'm somewhat of a hyper consumer.
Yeah.
A lot of that just comes from not having money growing up. I mean, we weren't poor, but we just didn't have money like that growing up. And so
Yeah.
when I started making good money, it was just like a kid in a candy store.
Well, I look back now, and I remember my parents being like, "Yeah, well, we can't really afford to do that or whatever." But when I look back now, I mean, we probably were. I mean, we were barely. We always had food, and we
Mm-hmm.
always had everything we needed. But there
Yeah.
was no extra money for anything.
Right.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
we couldn't just want something and go get it.
Exactly.
Right? Like you put it on the Christmas list and you waited a year for it.
Yeah.
Like if you want, I mean,
Absolutely.
small stuff. And we didn't take vacations. Like vacations were drive to a relative's house,
Mm-hmm.
that lives out of town. Like we didn't go to Disney World or
Mm. Yeah.
skiing or, we didn't do those things because there just wasn't money for it. But I didn't feel like I was missing out on it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't feel
You don't
that
know
at
any
all.
different.
No.
Other than what you see your friends doing, but
Yeah.
the worst thing for that is social media. You see people that are like, at least seemingly, having all these extravagant vacations, and you start to build this thing in your mind like you're missing out because you're not doing those things. What most people don't realize is they're vacationing on credit cards, or they're doing things that are really not smart, and they're not happy.
Yeah.
And that's not in all cases. There are people who are very wise with money and can afford to do those things and are truly like enjoying their family time and perfectly within their means. But I think for the mass population, at least by Dave Ramsey statistics, I think he says 87% of people live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And so just by that belief and stat alone, it's pretty safe to assume that the people you see on social media are faking it until they make it.
Yeah, I guess.
And it makes it hard on kids.
I think it's pretty, like, I try not to spend much time. I mean, I check social media stuff from time to time. I'm really more interested in keeping up with my cousins and things like that. Not, but when I see people posting their vacations, I really feel sorry for them. Like, I really do. I mean, I just feel like they're trying to show off something. And, like they're not enjoying whatever it is they're doing.
Not to mention it's not safe. That's like one of the worst things you can do from a safety perspective is post timestamps too. Like, hey, it's Friday at 3. We're at the beach until next Tuesday. And people that know you got stuff are like,
yeah, well,
perfect.
There's those people out there.
It's crazy.
Be careful.
Yeah, so you launched a business during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We talked to David. He also launched a business in the pandemic. So did Jennings. There's this. It's almost like a colony of people who decided to launch businesses in the pandemic for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Most people like yourself, it's been like a long time coming, and the timing is really somewhat not irrelevant, but removed from current events.
Yeah.
The timing is obviously divine for when you're launching, but
right.
Obviously the economic landscape's a little different right now. So we know that the Lord's our provider and he provides a way when we're walking in his will for our lives.
Yeah.
Did you have any struggles getting started with the whole pandemic deal, like slowing business down?
Yeah. So let me connect a few dots. Like, cause I was telling you about what I did when I was 16.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you asked me, well, what is the cabinet business? So let me just kind of connect those dots a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I'll answer that question.
Okay.
So help me remember to come back to it if I don't get there.
I got you.
But I never went to college. I really had no formal training in anything I've ever done.
Okay.
Including the cabinet business. Right? I just kind of jump in and do the best that I can with what I got in front of me. And that's scriptural, right? Like whatever your hand finds to do it well. And, and work as if you're working unto the Lord, right? So I've always thought about those things. Even before I thought about those things, I was kind of doing that, but those are things that jumped out to me. Like those are things in the Word of God that jump out to me, and they're like, you know what? I don't have to have it all figured out. I don't need to go down a pathway that anybody else has gone down. I just need to do the best with what's right in front of me, and trust God, right? That He is gonna open the next door.
Yeah.
And so for my entire career, I've never applied for a job. I don't think I've ever filled out a job application. Like
that's awesome.
Formally, like a recruiter called and like, hey, we want to do this.
Right.
Can you turn in an application? I've done that.
Yeah.
But I've never gone looking for a job.
Wow.
I've always just done the job that was right in front of me and did it to the best of my ability. And that has opened doors for me my entire life.
That's awesome.
And so that would be like a word of encouragement that I would tell anybody is that you may have an idea, like you may think, oh, I want to have my own business, or I want to go down, I want to be successful, or I want to, do this. It all starts with just being faithful in the little things.
Absolutely.
And so if you do that, that's key. But another really key part of that, you can do that for a while, and that'll take you so far. But you've got to learn to hear the voice of God, and understand it and trust it.
Right.
And so it took me a long time to trust his voice like I do now.
Yeah.
And so this last step has just been totally listening to his voice and taking a step of faith.
Yeah.
But it's been 30 years of working in
right.
going through a pathway. And every single time that it was time for me to take another step, like for instance, I worked as a cabinet, like I started my own business when I was 18 as an installer, doing the installation, putting cabinets together and so forth. And so I did that for a while, and I built relationships, right? Because I worked for different companies. Well, one day I got rear-ended at 70 miles. I was stopped and I got hit at 70, and it was all soft tissue damage. I didn't break anything, but I couldn't work for 2 years. I couldn't do the work that I was doing up till that point for 2 years. So in those 2 years, I started to learn the sales end of the business, right? And the design end of the business, which I knew how to do some of that stuff, but I wasn't doing it on a daily basis, and I didn't really have a tremendous amount of experience with it. So something that could be seen as, a negative, which that put me back financially too, because when you're, 18, 19, 20 and making a lot of good money, and don't figure out how the IRS has to get theirs, you can get a little behind.
Especially as an individual business owner.
Yeah, so I learned some lessons, but they all helped me, for the next step. And so I got into, during that time, I had favor with people that were like, well, we want you to do this. We're going to keep paying you as a sub, but we're going to let you work in the office and do these things for us. And then we're going to get you out in the field and do some this and that and so forth. And then it got me exposure in some pretty big corporations.
That's cool.
And things like that. And so it was all just being, just doing what was right in front of me the best that I could. And so that led into, kind of in that back and forth. I've always done installation, I've always done sales, and I've always done design. So those are kind of the three main categories that I've worked in. But all along the way, I've always taken on anytime an opportunity was there and somebody would trust me enough to let me try it, I would do it. And so I remember when I was in that like 18, 19-year-old range, I like doing remodeling. I was pretty much just doing cabinets, but I've always dabbled in remodeling and so forth. And there was a sweet little old lady that worked at the bank that I would, back then you actually went and cashed checks and did stuff at a bank. And she would see me and she would, we just built a nice little, friendship and stuff. And one day she was like, Eric, I want you to build me an addition at my house. And I'm like, well, that's not what I do. She was like, I know, but I think you can do it, And so,
that's cool.
And I was like, all right. And I built, and it turned out beautiful, but she trusted me.
Yeah.
And like, I wasn't going to let her down.
That means a lot. Yeah. It
it
means a lot when someone has faith in you enough to let you try something that's not really, I mean, it was in your wheelhouse because you're handy enough to do it.
Yeah, I knew all the things to do. I guess I just never had an opportunity to go for it. You know? And it was like a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was during I can remember I'd work over there every night, late at night. Her husband was going through, he was kind of dying of cancer at the time. And she didn't know it when she asked me that. That came on kind of halfway through. But I was working there in the evenings, and, I was, kind of helping them both through a tough time, just being there.
Right.
And so, but I started to really hear from the Lord during that time.
That's
Even
awesome.
though I was still partying.
Yeah.
But, I wasn't all in.
Yeah.
But I was hearing from the Lord. Like, I'd be working at night, and I would just feel his presence and be hearing, like, he was telling me stuff, and I was like, yeah, and so so I love working by myself.
Yeah.
I love working with people too. Like I'm a
Right.
people person,
Yeah.
but I can be just as happy like all alone.
Yeah.
I've always kind of worked by myself.
Okay.
I don't mind having help, but I've just always done a job where I'm kind of on my own, and so yeah, that's been pretty cool. So did a lot of that in the local area, and I can remember about maybe a little over 15 years ago. I was working in the Charlotte market for a big cabinet company. I had a great position, was doing well. I felt like I wanted to start building houses,
Mm.
and so I had a few again. Originally, I was going to go to school for construction management and do that,
Yeah.
but I didn't wind up going to school, going to college, and I'd learned quite a bit doing these remodeling projects and building additions and things like that. And built my own house. I designed and built my first house.
Nice.
And so I was like, yeah, I think I might want to switch gears and start building some houses.
Mm.
And so I had a couple. I had a couple really good friends that work for, track builders and so forth.
Yeah.
And so I was applying, and I was getting passed over for guys with degrees right out of college that knew nothing. Much more qualified for the job, but they're like, our hands are tied,
Right.
So a couple of those kind of weren't working out. And one day I was walking through a warehouse looking for something, and my phone rings, and this there was a recruiter on the other line, and they're like, hey, we we got your name. We were wondering if you would be interested in being a sales rep for this company. And it was the biggest cabinet company in the country. It was the most well-known name brand, and it was a really good company to work for, a huge corporation. And that job, normally you have to have a college degree. You actually have to have a business degree. They were pretty, selective and so forth. And so, the guy that I wound up interviewing, he didn't care about any of that stuff. He was able to kind of, and so forth. So I had an offer on the table to go to work, and my friend that kind of helped me get that interview was like, listen, if you want to get your foot in the door, this will do it, but you're going to be miserable for like a year, because they're putting you in a development there's no infrastructure, and it's going to be a mess.
Yeah.
He was like, but if you do well, it'll look good on you.
Right.
He said, so if you're happy where you're at, stay where you're at. That would be my advice. But if you really, really want to do this, then yeah, it might be a good opportunity to get your foot in the door. And so I was kind of weighing that, and my phone rings, and they were like, well, at that point I had about 15 years of experience in the cabinet business. And so I was like, well, I hadn't really thought about that, about becoming a sales rep, because it would require traveling and being away from home. And I had a young, Evan was young at the time.
Yeah.
But the guy that interviewed me, he did something cool. He invited my wife and I to go to dinner.
Oh, that's cool.
And he was like, listen, this isn't for everybody. And I want you, like talking to my wife, he's like, I want you to understand, it's going to be a change in lifestyle. Like, he's not going to be home every night. Like, I want you to understand what you're signing up for before you do it.
Right.
Like, I'd rather scare you off than, you sign up for something that you don't understand. He was like, my wife and I, I transitioned, which the cool thing, that guy and I are still friends today. We have similar paths in life,
Okay.
and he's doing well. He's the CEO of a big cabinet company.
Awesome.
And again, another guy that didn't really go the traditional
Yeah.
path of college and so forth.
Right.
And so, but yeah, it was a really cool thing to do. And so that got me into the world of being a sales rep and a manufacturer's rep. And so I've done that for the last 15 years. I've worked for two companies that are two of the largest cabinet companies in the industry, and I've had incredible favor. Like, everywhere I go, those companies give me like as many pay raises as they can, as many benefits as they can. The CEOs, the CFOs, they all come and hang out with me and spend time with me.
That's cool.
At the street level, which is really unheard of.
Yeah.
And it's just the favor of God. It's nothing else.
Right. Exactly.
It's not anything that I did.
Yeah.
But I've just been walking this thing out and just seeing God open some doors. And so at the end of, like, I guess it was back in 2019. One of a friend, and the other thing is, like, relationships are so important.
Yes.
Like, we really have to look at where we are, the jobs that we have, about building relationships with the people that we're around.
Yeah.
That's why God's got us there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a purpose in the work, and and it serves a purpose, but we're really there to build relationships with the people that we're, I look at it as like, go into all the nations and create disciples. Yeah. I see the nations as your circle of influence, right? The sphere of influence that you find yourself in. So if it's your neighborhood or if it's your workers or whatever, that's kind of how I always look at that.
Yeah.
And so there was a guy that I worked with for years, and I planted seeds with him, and it was good soil because he left and went to another company to take another job and so forth, and he got, we always stay. I stay in touch. I have friends that I make through work that become lifelong friends.
Yeah.
We go our different paths, but we always talk, and
that's awesome.
So this is one of those guys, and he was telling me about a company that he was real excited about. And so he was telling me about it. He wasn't recruiting me in any way because he wasn't in a position to do that.
Yeah.
But he was cluing me in to some things this company was doing that I would not have known any other way. And I felt God, I felt the door opening. Like I felt God stirring me.
Yeah.
And I remember telling my wife, I was on the phone with this guy for like 2 hours, and she was sitting right there because we were at Great Wolf Lodge watching Liam splash around doing, we had nothing to do and stuff. So we were just hanging out. And I was like, yeah, so this guy's telling me that. I'm like, I'm really excited about it. It's kind of weird. Like I haven't thought about going out on my own because I really like the security of working for a big company.
Right.
And there's some reasons why, but yeah, I felt like a stirring. And so I started praying about it and thinking about it and taking a step like, hey, you know what? I'm really actually interested in talking about possibly taking this on as an independent sales rep. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's the new business. I've started my own rep agency.
Okay.
And so instead of being an employee for a big company, I'm just a, straight commissions.
Okay. So more of a contractor type thing.
Contractor. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you can kind of shop, not necessarily shop around, but it's kind of like being a broker for insurance, if you will, where you can actually sell somebody the best product for the job.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the most expensive or whatever, but you can be unbiased.
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah, and I can also work for multiple manufacturers, right? So if I want to represent another product, as long as it doesn't compete directly against them in their same lane, like their same price point or whatever, then I can sell other stuff. Where for the past 15 years as an employee, I could only sell what they make.
Right.
I can't go out and sell something else.
Sell somebody else's
on the side. I mean, that would be a
big no-no. Man. So we do a question of the day at the end of each episode. And I think we're probably getting close to time. Honestly, I have no idea. But the question of the day, obviously, all the viewers know we do one day a month, basically, where I record the episodes for the month. So I've been doing the same question. And it was, if you could go back with the knowledge you have and have a conversation with your early 20s self, or young adult self, newly married, new father, whatever, if you could go back and have a conversation at one of those times in your life, what piece of advice would you give yourself that you feel would set you up best for the future and where you wanted to go?
Well, that's a deep question there.
It's deep, and it's not real direct.
Yeah.
But I like it because then you can really say what comes to your heart, and you're not missing, like you're not answering the question improperly. You know what I mean?
I would probably just say to don't waste time. Don't waste time. Don't put off things that you know you need to do.
Okay.
Right? Like, so if you feel like you need to either get something out of your life, deal with something that you've kind of kept hidden, or you know or maybe not had a conversation with somebody that you need to have.
Yeah.
Even something of gratitude,
right.
Not necessarily of like forgiveness or something,
Yeah.
but those are two big ones,
Right.
Like
huge.
Just don't waste any time.
Yeah.
Like, don't put things off, because that may be like causing you to take the long way.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if you feel like there's something that needs to be dealt with, don't like put it off. Just take care of it right away.
Right. That's so important. It's important in marriage too.
Yeah.
Make sure that you clear the air, especially, biblically, not going to bed when the devil has a strong or a foothold on you with anger or resentment or anything.
Absolutely.
It's really important to settle those things.
Yep.
So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening, everybody. That's the end of episode 7. We'll have another one coming your way, and we're going to have Mr. Eric Boyd back on. So thanks. Tune in.